Ah! It's not broken, it's fine. Hello? Hello? Ah, let's do it. Let's build this behemoth. Okay, so got all of that stuff out the way. We're going to do the main part of the build on the motherboard box. This is all you're going to need so far. We're going to get the motherboard, the processor, the RAM, and our M.2 storage device. There's the MSI X570 Gaming Plus motherboard. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off these brackets for the AM4 cooler. The standard cooler that comes with nearly every AMD Ryzen AM4 processor, you don't need these cooler brackets. You actually take these off to then be able to put the new cooler on. So the new cooler, which is like this one here, has the 4 screws which go into the holes where these screws are. And we keep the same back plate, so we want to keep this back plate on, and the cooler will go onto that. So you've got your motherboard here. This is my little toolkit that I use when I'm building. It's quite good because this is like an extendable screwdriver. There's a magnetic bit holder. We're just going to remove these brackets. Because we don't need them. Get these off first. Right, that's them off. So now our cooler can just bolt straight into these 4 holes. So we've got one Ryzen 5 2600X processor, and we have a Wraith cooler. So it's got thermal paste already applied on this cooler, but we're going to wipe that off. And I'm just going to show you the difference in the 2 coolers. This one has the LED ring that goes around the side. The heat sinks are the same size. But what we might do, just for aesthetics, we might keep this one. And then we don't have to clean this up because this is already clean now. There's a couple of different thermal solutions that you can use. This one is Arctic MX4. I will be doing a video on different cooling solutions, different thermal pastes, or some people call them thermal grease. That's the MX4. You've also got Thermal Grizzly's Cryonaut. You've got Noctua's thermal paste. It's NTH1 from Noctua, and you can also use these things, graphite thermal pads. So in a future video, I'll be going through all of the different, well, these 3 different thermal pastes, the stock thermal paste and the graphite pad, and we're going to just test out temperatures and see what the difference between them is. You can either revert to your motherboard manual, or on the board it tells me here which memory slots to use first. So these are labeled DIMM A1, DIMM A2, DIMM B1 and DIMM B2. Now, to enable dual channel memory on this board, we need to insert the memory modules into DIMM A2 and DIMM B2. So the way we do that is we take our stick of memory Now this is DDR4 memory. DDR4 memory will only fit in a DDR4 board. You can't put DDR3 memory in this. The notches are in slightly different places, so you cannot get them mixed up. All you need to do is see which orientation you need your module to where the little block is inside the slot. So these ones, they need to go this way around. This only has the clips on one side. On the other side, they are completely solid. What we need to do is we line it up and push it down firmly until you hear click on both sides. Make sure you can't see any of the gold contacts on the bottom of the memory to know that it is seated correctly. Then again, like I say, one slot, miss one slot, and then memory module in the other slot. And again, pressing down nice and firmly till you hear it click on both sides. That's your memory installed. Dead easy. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the CPU. So you've got your retention arm here. So all you do is just move the retention arm to the side a little bit to make sure it can come past the clip. Pull it all the way up. Unbox your processor. Now be very gentle here, be careful that you don't drop the processor. Sticker adds 2 horsepower. So there's your chip here. We're going to take it out nice and gently because these processors, the AMD processors, have the pins actually on the chip itself. Orientation wise, normally your rise and writing will be in line with the socket writing, or if you look for the gold triangle in the corner and line it up with the triangle on the board. Make sure the retention arm's fully up, seat the processor, give it a little bit of a wiggle to make sure it's seated nicely, push the retention arm down and clip it back into place. And we're going to apply our thermal paste. So one of the modifications that I normally do with these stock coolers is I turn the fan so it's facing the correct way. So I like it to face that way, but the heatsink wouldn't line up correctly. So all I'm going to do is take this smaller screwdriver head and I'm going to remove the screws from the fan. So we've done that now. We've oriented the cooler in the correct direction. The screws on the cooler itself are spring loaded. So as soon as we get down to the correct tightness, they'll stop. We don't need them to go any further. We can't over tighten these. So when you're ready, you place your cooler on top of your CPU. Make sure your holes are lined up. And with a little bit of pressure, screw with confidence. You want to go in a crisscross pattern and just do one at a time, just a couple of turns until you get it. Right, that's on. Then take your 4-pin CPU fan wire and plug it into the CPU fan. Right, so we've got the cooling solution, we've got the processor in, and we've got the RAM in. Now we're going to put in the M.2 drive. So on this board we've got 2 M.2 slots. So that's your M.2 storage there. We need to see where we're going to put the standoff on the board itself. So that's going to go into this hole here. So that's tightened down there. So this goes in a little bit of an angle. Slide it in full. Get that tiny little screw. That secures the M.2 drive. Like so. So that's now secure. We're going to leave everything off there because we want this thermal pad in contact with the chips to disperse the heat. That's the motherboard done. Right, so we've got our case. The first thing we're going to do is install our backplate.
You going to say brace?
I did say brace. I'm taking the mick.
I know.
Install the boys. Shouldn't say things like that.
Too late.
Right, install the back plate, making sure it's the correct way up, and you basically just push it in, give it a bit of force if you need to, but it should pop all the way in, like so. There you go. 3 and 4. You know it's in when it pops like that. Right, what we need to do is we need to check out our standoffs here. We need to make sure we've got the correct amount of standoffs and in the correct location. So just grab our motherboard and do a quick comparison. So on the motherboard we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they are all in line horizontally and vertically, which makes a change. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all in the correct place. So just lower your motherboard into place. So that's lined up, and then just need to get it lined up with the standoffs. And then if somebody can hold this in place while I casually forget to grab some screws. I've got screws for days.
This
Power
motherboard looks absolutely
standoffs.
tiny.
In this case, yeah. And don't forget, guys and girls, to screw with confidence. Right, so that's the 9. Oh, you know what I've done? I put the 9 screws in. I didn't need 9 screws in, I only needed 8, because remember, we need to put this special standoff in here. Make sure I got the right and the correct way around.
Why? Would it bother you?
Not at all. That's our M.2 covered up. So when this heats up, when the M.2 drive heats up, and it will, at least now we've got some heat dispersion to try and keep it nice and cool. So we'll remove this back plate here so that we can get at the screws. It's a 2-slot graphics card, so we need to take 2 of the PCI covers off. And we'll save them for later. 2 power connections and 8 plus a 6-pin. When you're installing this, make sure that your clip is down. And just push it down firmly till you hear a click. It didn't actually click, but I did see the clip move to say that it is secured. I'm going to put the thumb screws back in to secure the graphics card. And that's the graphics card in. Right, so now we need to do some cable management. So we're going to do cables across the bottom of the motherboard. If we start with USB 3, we're just going to feed it. We're going to put that through that grommet there, and that is going to plug in here. So that's a USB 3 for the front, plugged in there. Next, we have front panel connectors through the grommet here. So we're going to attach them. And also we've got front USB 2.0, which can go through the same one. And HD audio for the front audio connectors can go through the back. And most motherboards will have these in similar position. And you should have something like this here. So front panel connectors here, USB connector, and HD audio connector. So we've got 3 fans on the front and 1 fan at the rear to plug in. Fortunately, on this board, we have a shared load of fan connectors across the bottom here. Now, I've got 4 fans, and I've got system fan 1, system fan 2, system fan 3, system fan 4. So I could just plug all the fans into a different fan header. So these are 4-pin fans. You can get 3-pin fans, but all of your headers are going to have 4 pins. So there's a little tab in which, if you've got a 3-pin fan, you know it tells you which pins to put the fan on. With this little tab, you can only put it in one place. So you can't go wrong. So that's the fans connected up. Like I say, down the bottom there, you can see them all plugged in. So what's left? Power supply. 750 watt, 80 plus gold. Fully modular power supply. The power supply itself doesn't have any cables attached. That's all your cables that you're ever going to need. They're black cables and they're sleeved. This is where all your cables mount. So we have to work out what connections we actually need in this build. Best to get all your power cables connected first before you put it in the case. And then all you're going to do is, once you've tidied up this mess, I'll feed these through and then we'll head back to the front of the case. So we've got our 20 plus 4 pin connector here. That's for our motherboard power. We're just going to train that a little bit and just bend it over ever so slightly. Give it a nice firm push. Make sure that that connection is fully seated. Don't want to see any gap. Graphics card power connections. Again, make sure it's fully home. We only need the 6 pin for this second connection. And just pull the cables back through. Then we've only got the 2 power connectors for the APS. And there you go. That's all the cables that we really need in here. Now it's just cable management of this massive mess at the back. Then you should have something that looks like this. So there you have it. There is the behemoth. Saved the best part to last, obviously. Probably not going to make much noise, is it? So there you have it. It's finished. I'll not be using it just yet because obviously I need to edit the video on this. If you've got any questions about the build, pop them down in the comments. Everything will be linked in the description below. We're going to be doing a few bits and pieces in the next upcoming videos. Like I said before, we're going to be going through thermal paste and seeing which paste delivers the best performance with stock cooler, and hopefully in the future we'll get some nice 360 water cooling in this beast. We'll also have a look at air coolers as well and see what's going to be the best option. We will eventually get some LED lighting in, and we're going to do some custom cables as well, so look out for those. So we've got the system running. I'm going to do all the updates that are needed from Windows and all the driver updates, make sure everything's running fine. We're going to be looking at how to snazz up your RAM. We're going to be doing some RGB RAM modules and show you what sort of offers are available for those. Like I say, custom cables, we'll talk about how to put some drives in as well. So we'll get an SSD in, a 2.5-inch SSD, and we'll also get a mechanical drive in here. Well, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video. If you didn't like the video, let us know what you want to see in future videos. We've got a list on our Facebook page. That's Neo Computers UK on Facebook. Again, links in the description. And that's it for now. So, yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Take care.